We're just moments after a disappointing, embarrassing, disgusting 4-0 loss to Switzerland in Nashville. The most embarrassing loss on U.S. soil in quite some time. The fourth consecutive loss under Mauricio Pochettino. The most consecutive losses the USA has faced since 2007. And overall, one of the most disappointing nights as a U.S. soccer fan for me, for those of you who watched with me in our live stream, for the fans in the stadium who left at halftime, and for our prospects of what's to come next week, next month, and next year. A truly disturbingly bad performance of which we showed little to no effort or care at any given point, including the coach, including the players these MLS players who are supposed to be trying harder, who are supposed to be bringing a different energy, who care more because they live in the U.S. and they care more about the U.S. than our star players who aren't on the side, and all the nonsense that has been talked about over the past few months of the year of, oh, the players who play in Europe don't care as much because they play in Europe. No. How Mauricio Pochettino could select this starting 11 specifically is beyond me. You have 8 players here who will almost certainly not even sniff the World Cup squad. At the very least, people who definitely won't sniff the World Cup squad. Brian White, Quinn Sullivan, Paxton and Brendan Aronson, Sebastian Berhalter, Walker Zimmerman, Nathan Harriel. Those 7 have a 0% chance of making the World Cup squad. Max Arfson has a 8% chance of making the World Cup squad. At this point, I would say Matt Turner has a chance of not making the World Cup squad with how horribly he has played the last 3 times he's played for the U.S. men's national team and how much he does not fit the way that Pochettino wants to play. What Pochettino expected from this match, I have no idea. We've talked so much about what Pochettino looks for in his system, right? What possession looks like, how he wants to break teams down, how he wants to create chances, how he thought this 11 could implement what he wants to do is beside me. Let's just look into it a little bit. Let's get right into what that would look like. And then we'll get more specific into specific players, but let's just look from a tactical point of view. I'm Mauricio Pochettino. I'm in the dressing room before the game. I've announced this is the 11, and I'm going to tell you how we're going to break down Switzerland. So Switzerland play a 4-1-4-1. Xhaka as that deepest midfielder, kind of sitting in between 2 center backs. So you've got the center backs here and Xhaka here. Then you've got another line of 4 with 2 kind of double 8s, wingers, and a striker. When they press, they're forcing Matt Turner to step into this space, okay? So they're pressing. McKenzie, let's say McKenzie has the ball. Mbolo is coming up here, pressing McKenzie to play this ball back to Turner. Turner then has Zimmerman here with another player pressing here. Arfson starts moving up here. Aronson kind of comes in this way. Both Aronsons. Sullivan's high here. Harriel's here. Johnny drops into this space, and Berhalter kind of fills into the space that Arfson's vacated, right? So I am the ball now. I'm Matt Turner. You have a player here. You have a player with Zimmerman who's kind of going this way a little bit, and Johnny coming into this space. Ideally, you have a goalkeeper who can play this ball into Harriel, right? You want to play this ball here because you kind of have a defender in between these 2 players. So you don't really have this ball into Sullivan, but you have this ball to Harriel. Turner doesn't have that, so he plays it into Johnny. When Johnny gets the ball, you have this midfielder coming this way. This midfielder is a little bit out of space because you've had Mbolo here. You had one midfielder push up on Zimmerman. You've had this midfielder come to Johnny. The only next step that can possibly result in the U.S. breaking forward with the ball is for Brendan Aronson to make a sprint into this space, receive, and turn, and away we go. As we talked about with the last match, Diego Luna did that a few times, and that's where we got our creation. Instead, Brendan Aronson jogs over here. By the time Brendan Aronson gets here, This midfielder has recovered from McKenzie back into here. Johnny doesn't have this ball. This ball now from Johnny comes back this way to McKenzie or across to Berhalter. Berhalter gets pressed by 2 players here, comes back into McKenzie, and we start all over again. That happened time and time again. The only other thing that happened was Turner plays it into Johnny. I'm sorry, Turner doesn't have this pass to Johnny because Zimmerman and Harriel haven't created enough space. Turner goes long into White. White either controls and then loses it or controls and plays a poor pass. That was the entire first half. That was it. That was everything we attempted. It was mostly this way, this way, this way, this way, this way, back and forth, no central access. Finally, when we get into Johnny, either Aronson brother is too slow to make this sprint, even though there's acres of space in here, because they're matching up, right? Their 2 center backs are matching up back here with White. You've got 2 center backs here. You've got Arfson making this move up here with a fullback here. You've got one midfielder pressing Zimmerman, the striker pressing McKenzie, the fullbacks covered by the wingers. So there's a space here. There's a massive space here. If Aronson can make this starting run, then you can move forward. Didn't happen one singular time that Aronson made that run, either Aronson. And the one time Paxton got on the ball, he drove up the field with White and Aronson, Arfson making a run out here, and turned around, recycled play to Sullivan, and the ball came back. This 11 does not have that ball-carrying player in midfield. So how in the world Mauricio Pochettino thought that this 11 players was going to at any point be able to break down Switzerland is beyond me. Especially with Brian White as the striker. I get it if you think Adjemang's going to have a better game holding up the ball. He had one of his worst matches holding up the ball against Turkey. He did it a little better today in the second half. I will give him credit. I was really unhappy with how Adjemang played in the first game. I thought he was better as a hold-up striker in this game. He had plenty of his own other issues, including a same issue that a lot of the MLS players have, which is they don't understand how to play two-touch ball. Even if you have the time and space on the ball, you want to move it quickly. That is the whole concept of what Pochettino is trying to instill in these players. And he's not able to get it done because even when they get into space, they're not making decisions quickly. And nobody was a bigger disappointment at that than Sebastian Berhalter. Sebastian Berhalter, actually, I thought the first 6 minutes of the game got on the ball 3 times, and I thought he made 3 really interesting contributions. The first time, he received the ball out here, 1 touch to control, second touch was down the line to Brandon Aronson, and we got a little mini attack going. The second 2 times he got the ball, he received the ball in this space, in the half space, where we want this player to receive the ball. Exactly how Pochettino coaches it. And both times, because it was kind of Paxton playing as a second striker almost. That's why I wanted Brendan making this run back into the pitch. Sebastian played a diagonal ball into these 2 players twice. And I thought it created a little bit of space, right? The big thing about varying, going long and going short is it creates space. So if you continuously only go short, your attackers start coming in, everything starts coming deep, and then they just can guard you in one place. But if you start playing this diagonal into them, it pushes the lines. It allows your midfielders to get up the pitch. It allows your left back to overlap and those types of things. And I like that out of Berhalter. But what came after that opening 6 minutes from Sebastian Berhalter was disgusting. He, out of possession, was incapable of ever getting close to a player. Every time the player he was marking out the ball, he was giving them 3 yards of space, 5 yards of space, allowing them to turn with the ball, allowing them to have plenty of time to make their pass. That first goal that Switzerland scored from, you had the ball was out here on the wing. Johnny picked up this player. Ball comes into where Berhalter's marking this guy. This player receives the ball facing his own goal. Berhalter's right here. He takes a touch this way. Berhalter comes this way. This player takes a touch sideways. Berhalter drops in deeper. Now you've got Jashari, an experienced midfielder on the ball, with all the time and space in the world, facing a defense that is now caught out because they're not ready for Ndoye to make a full sprint in between the 2 of them. Johnny tries to get in there, deflects it, splits them. Harriel's completely blindsided by this run, loses the runner, and you've got a goal. All because Sebastian Berhalter, instead of a player receiving the ball facing this way, instead of him forcing the ball backwards, as Switzerland did to us every single time, he steps away from the player. And the amount of times he did that was crazy. And it caused big issues for Max Arfsten. There was a few times where, not a few, many times, Arfsten continuously was losing his runner in behind. He was getting way too close in here to McKenzie. And this runner, Manzambi, was just getting in behind, or Embolo, whoever it might be, over and over again. Arfsten just kept getting so tight, like this tight to McKenzie. It was like McKenzie and Arfsten were here, and there was this huge gap here. And that was because Berhalter, every time this ball came out here, was giving them so much space, or if the ball came in here, so much space that Arfsten felt that he had to cut in. Listen, Arfsten made plenty of his own mistakes defensively and continuously lost runners, including a time he loses the Embolo. I'm sure everybody remembers this. He loses Embolo, tracks back, pokes it away from Embolo, who hits the ground. Embolo gets up and gets back on the ball before Arfsten. And that just comes down to a lack of effort. And that, to me, was the biggest issue with a lot of these players. I can understand the MLS concept if these players are going to try harder. They're going to work harder. And that's why they're out there. But I didn't see that from any of the players out there. Some more kind of instant reactions and thoughts about the lineup. The Aaronsons, in general, they just don't know what their position is, where to be, and how to operate. They both have a little bit of skill when they get on the ball. They're creative. They try and make, aggressive passes into the box and pick out a player. But they don't know when to get onto the ball, where to get onto the ball, and how to get onto the ball, as I was talking about earlier. And that holds them back consistently. Especially, it's different when you play for your club. You're playing the same system. You're training every day. When you play for your country, you have to imply yourself onto the game a little bit more. You have to try and step yourself into the game. Get yourself into the game early. We saw Jack McGlynn do a really good job of that in the last game. Just trying and putting your mark on the game early. Get to the ball. Show to the ball. And the Aaronsons consistently were hiding behind this level of midfielders. And there was two Aaronsons, one half space. Two Aaronsons, one number 6, and two half spaces. They should have been able to make different runs. So Brendan comes here, Paxton comes here. Brendan comes here, Paxton goes there. They should have been able to vary their runs. Paxton makes this run with White. Okay, this defender's going to drop off, then Aaronson fills this space. And over again, they were completely incapable of figuring out how to do that and put themselves in a position to be the runners. They needed to be the runners with the ball, the ball carriers. They are the ball carriers of this team. Look at this team. Who's a ball carrier in this team? Not Johnny, not Sebastian Berhalter, not Brian White, not Nathan Harriel. These are the players who needed to be the runners, and they never once tried to be. Quinn Sullivan, who I thought was a pretty solid power sub in the Turkey A match. I thought he did pretty well for, this situation. His big issue is he offers nothing unless he receives the ball in the attacking third. When he receives the ball up here, he can make something happen. He can cut in and try and score a goal, or get to the byline and put in a cross. He's aggressive. He likes to get into 1v1s, but he was completely incapable of ever playing a role in the build-up at any point in the entire match. In the first half, he played just 45 minutes, 13 of 16 passing, 0 crosses, and 2 of 5 duels won. He was just nowhere. He was incapable of making any sort of impact on the match. And last but not least, on just this first half and the disgustingness that came in this first half, that goal that Matt Turner gave up to Brielle Embolo, how he does not swallow that ball up is one thing. But to push it right across goal where you know that backside runner is going to be, that's goalkeeping 101. That's the first step in goalkeeping. And Matt Turner seems to consistently make those mistakes. He can do some of the difficult things right once in a while, make a penalty save, make a good reaction save. But he's incapable of doing the simple things, and it makes me really respect Tim Howard a lot, because Tim Howard was an overrated goalkeeper for a lot of reasons. He made the 12 saves in the Belgium match. A lot of those were right at him, but he did well to do the simple things right. And A team like this that's going to face a lot of shots, it's going to face a lot of difficult situations. You need a goalkeeper who's going to do the simple things right. You don't need someone who's going to pull something out of the top drawer. We can't beat ourselves. And in both of these matches, we beat ourselves. Losing runners in behind, giving up tap-in goals off of balls that should have been swallowed up. And the second goal, Sebastian Berhalter just stumbled, and it just turned into an easy 3-on-3. Like, every single game is coming with us giving up these silly goals that we're just shooting ourselves in the foot. Obviously, we're missing key players, but it's worrying that Mauricio Pochettino has not been able to get 45 minutes of his tactics implemented. And the fact that he chose this 11 is maybe the most concerning. People are talking about the squad. Oh, this is his squad. He chose this squad. He has a squad that this didn't need to be the 11, even if he didn't want to play the players who played against Turkey. It didn't need to be this 11. There were other options. And he still went with this. That's what's worrying to me. Who he's just choosing, the positions he's putting them in. Brendan Aronson is not a winger. Paxton Aronson is not an interior. Why they were flipped that way in this match, I don't know. I can't answer that question. Brendan Aronson played the entire year in the middle of the park. Paxton played mostly off the left side. Yet they're playing in opposite positions in this match. I don't have answers to why Pochettino does this, but it feels like a lack of interest, and you can see it out there. We're getting dominated. We give up a terrible 2 goals. He's sitting on the bench. Get in your technical area. Shout some instructions out. And lastly, on this starting 11, Johnny Cardoso's form for the U.S. is really, really, really worrying. He cannot seem to find his footing. And for us to succeed, the players who are playing some of the best football in Europe need to be playing that way for our country. I don't mean this as hyperbole. I mean this as a statement of fact because it is true. Johnny Cardoso is one of the best young and up-and-coming sixes in the sport right now. He's being sought after by some of the top clubs in the world. Barcelona, Atletico Madrid, Tottenham. Clubs that are top 12 in terms of the money that they have and the scouting departments that they run are looking at him. He's one of the next big controllers in the sport. Yet, when he plays for the U.S., he's incapable of dictating tempo. He's incapable of playing forward passes. He doesn't make the same kind of defensive actions that we see him do week in, week out with Betis. He's not reading the passing lanes. He can't find a partner he's comfortable with in midfield. He doesn't seem to know where to be. There's nothing else to chalk this up to other than a coach who doesn't know how to manage his players. And that's the most worrying thing. I'll say it over and over again. I think Pochettino has abilities to be a good coach. We've seen him go through stretches of his career where he has. And this is not the best team in the world. This is not the World Cup team. But any coach should be able to implement their ideas better than he is. There's no way these players are that stupid. They share plenty of the responsibility. But they're just not idiots. They're not morons. They're not incapable of hearing, learning, and in listening. But it is coming across that way. And the fact that some players are getting worse every single match is quite worrying. There are some very small positives, some second-half successes just to lightly touch on. I thought, as I mentioned, with Luna last game, the one time, and I'm just going to use Brendan Aronson for this sake of this. The one time Luna got into this space, the ball came out wide to Harriel. We dropped into a 5 at the back for those who were watching here. This was Tim Ream here. Let's call this Tim Ream. Right? We got into a 5 at the back. We had Tillman out here. We had Luna and Berhalter, right? This is what it kind of looked like. It was totally bizarre, the formation, but it kind of looks something like this. And the one time kind of Harriel pushed up here, Berhalter got into this space. Tillman pushed up here, right? As Tillman came up through the middle here, took defenders with him. And what did Luna do? Darted into the half spaces. And then he was able to play a ball into Tillman, follow it, carry, a ball into, this is Adjumang up here, a ball into Adjumang. Adjumang turns and tries to get a shot on target. There is an idea of what we want to do. It's there. When we get the players who are the half space players into those areas, it's there. But the issue is getting them there and having them make those darting runs. So many times our players are not sprinting to a spot. It's so important when you see space to sprint into it because that's your opportunity to get on the ball. Of course, we have to talk about Malik Tillman somehow creating 3 chances in the second half with this cockamamie lineup being out there. It's not Malik Tillman's best match by any means. I think the second half was kind of gone by the time it started, but came out there and did his best. He created the most chances of anybody in the match. 3 chances, 28 of 30 passing, 2 of 2 accurate crosses, 3 of 3 accurate long balls, 1 his only tackle, made 8 recoveries. I mean, he was asked to play deep in midfield. He was basically playing in a double pivot with Johnny. I mean, he hasn't done that since his Rangers days. I mean, this is basically what we got into, in possession once those guys came on, was something like this, basically. I mean, it was Zimmerman here, McKenzie here. And Tillman was dictating tempo. He was pushing it up the pitch. He'd get it out to, this is Tolkien here. He'd get it out to Tolkien. He'd come pick it up. He'd spread it out wide to Harriel. Berhalter would somehow end up down here. Tillman would get into this space. He worked hard. And I love that out of Malik Tillman. And Mark McKenzie. Mark McKenzie and John Tolkien both deserve a shout out for knowing how to be defenders. Mark McKenzie specifically, for a match where we gave up 4 goals and he was on the pitch the whole time, there were a couple times he got into 1v1s with talented players and shut them down. He knows how to defend. I'm a big fan of Mark McKenzie. He's just further proving that he needs to be alongside Chris Richards if we are playing a serious match. And lastly, John Tolkien. He should play more. Anyone who listens to this show, this podcast, knows I love John Tolkien. And I love the way that he plays. He's such a smart, old-fashioned fullback. Defend first, but when the opportunity is there, I'm going to get up that left-hand side. I'm going to hit the ball hard across the middle of the goal, and I'm going to hope something's going to happen. And things are going to happen for John Tolkien if he continues to do that. He did that multiple times in the second half. Probably the second best player on the pitch for us in the second half after Malik Tillman. And he has earned himself more minutes because Max Arfson was god-awful in this match. Truly terrible on both ends of the pitch. Bad decision-making, bad defending, no ability to, put a stamp on the game that said Max Arfson was here. I'm going to take advantage of my opportunities. One of the few players who got to play in both matches. And he disappointed. That's all we have for this match. It's a somber night. We're going into this Gold Cup, and the conversation is, we're not going to get out of the group stage. What happens next? And how do we get ready for the World Cup? When Pochettino was hired 9 months ago, this was supposed to be an exciting summer. We're supposed to go into a tournament that we're favored to win with a fun team, with a chance for Pochettino to have a warm-up tournament, get his tactics implemented, try out some new players, figure out who his best players are in what positions. And instead, we're talking about Sebastian Berhalter and Mauricio Pochettino getting fired. We have fallen a long way in the past decade or so as a country in terms of this sport. And it has been the exact opposite of a coincidence with the rise of talented players. Hopefully, it's one of those things where a switch just gets flipped over the next week. We train hard. Pochettino gets into these guys' heads and he figures out his 11. But as of right now, I don't feel optimistic. I don't feel excited, and the conversation around this team is toxic. And they see it. They hear it. It's in the media. It's on social media. They can't shut it out. It's going to be up to them and the coach to turn things around because we're a couple weeks from the biggest disaster possible heading into a World Cup that we're hosting, and we'll be the laughingstock of the world. And I can promise you, not one of these players wants that, and I certainly don't. Thanks for tuning in to another Yanks Abroad. Make sure to hit that subscribe button down below if you want to hear more U.S. men's national team content. The Gold Cup is coming up. We're hoping that we can make more positive content. I don't want to make negative content. You know, people got mad at me for that last one saying, what are you saying is positive about this match? I felt there were real positives from the Turkey match. I don't want to make negative, screaming into the camera content. That's not why I do this. I always wanted the U.S. team to be good more than anything. I've been watching them my whole life. It's time. I'm ready. We've been dreaming of this. I want to make positive content about the Gold Cup. So hopefully you'll be back here for that positive content, and hopefully I'll have a reason to make positive content. Thank you again for watching, and we'll talk to you on Sunday for the first match of the Gold Cup.